get to a point where we are going to discuss urban culture and development. So how do we integrate urban development, urban culture, so that we have a more resilient and vibrant, city? You see, we are interested in energy, because creative sector brings energy. So we are interested in a very energetic city. So if you could just share with us some ideas about how we can do planning of Nakuru town in a manner that recognizes, the creative sector. How you are doing it and how you can even get additional support from the sector.
I am Festus. I am an urban planner with Nakuru City, county government of Nakuru. So it's a very difficult question, linking urban planning, physical planning, and culture, arts, and I can add tourism. So now urban planning is a very it's an extensive some sort of sector which involves integration of all sectors, from infrastructure, tourism, business, and all sort of ecosystem within an urban area. So urban planning has got two approaches. We have the forward planning and we have the development control. Let me start with the latter, which touches on Samba's question on the issue of housing. So development control is where before you do any development, you seek for approval according to the Fiscal and Land Use Planning Act. So kabla hujajenga, unapeleka hizo drawings, architect anasign, registered fiscal planner anasign, alafu anazileta huko kwetu, zinakuwa circulated for opinions, and then after that a technical committee sits and then approves. So if it cannot be approved, it is not approved with reasons, and then it comes back to you. It is approved with conditions. So here now is where we now, let me start with protection of heritage sites and mapping of the cultural heritage sites within Nakuru. So that is one of the things that we are doing, trying to preserve these historically important sites, which are the heritage sites. The monuments like the Hyrax Seal, which is also some sort of a museum, our parks, our forests, Menengai crater, so that if you want to bring an approval or you want to develop and you have encroached on those sites, we're not going to approve. So protection and preservation of these heritage sites and mapping them out is one of the key way of merging this planning and development control now with culture and the other issue is on forward planning, where when we are doing the long-term development plans like the CIDP, spatial plans, ISUDP, we go around and seek opinions from the public. What do you want us to do with this creative industry? In our planning, what do you want us to include in our CIDP? And I'm so happy that during the previous public participations, we have had people from the creative industry. I remember even at some point when we were at Shabab in December, raising an issue of creative policy. And I was so happy that the creative industry is coming in and now pushing for their agenda in the creative sector. So that's one of another issue where we include programs, we include initiatives, we include activities in our long-term plans that will aim at giving our creative industry players a platform where they can showcase their talent or their activity and maybe get to reach the potential audience. Another issue is also when it comes to getting info or having a database. For example, we are including in our plan having a tourism and culture data center within the city, whereby we will be able to have all the information with regards to the creatives, the heritage sites, the potential sites to visit in Nakuru, even contact persons of some of the artists in the creative industry in that data center. So that's in our plan, and we are pushing that to happen in either this financial year or the next financial year. So I can say with regards to planning, it's really, in the recent past, it has really been, it has not been much included when we are doing the spatial plans and even the CIDPs. It has not been that very much emphasized, the issue of creative industry and arts, because we usually much emphasize on the other physical fabric of an urban system, like the roads, the street lights, the infrastructure, development control. But sometimes we forget much on the creative arts. And I'm happy that now with the creative key players, we are starting now to take much cognizance of the creative aspect.
You see, you can never solve a problem until you raise it to the level of consciousness. Yani, you cannot solve a problem until you know that it is a problem. So, when you think about urban planners, many of them may not know the significance of the creative sector when they are looking at the documents, like what to approve and so forth and so on. And it is not because of their fault. It's because of our system and our training and so on. We are trained to be technical, and we are not trained to look at the softer parts of life, which sometimes the creative sector brings in. Just wondering whether there is a way in which the city planning department can train or can seek the support of the creative sector to train urban planners, that they start appreciating that whatever they approve must have some sensibility, some sensitivity to the creative.
That's what can be done. For example, at the moment we are championing the climate change adaptation issues and the global discussions on climate change. And we had a policy on the percent of development you can do on a plot, call it the plot coverage. We have the 75% for our residential areas, and we have the 100% for the commercial zones. So we are proposing that the 75%, the remaining 25% can be used for either tree coverage, having just a green space within the remaining 25%, which is usually left for services. So that's what we are discussing on, how to come up with a policy, and that one also is very possible, so that we inform our developers or inform the public that when you are developing, you can put in a component of creative arts in your structure, or even the existing infrastructure like the buildings in our CBD, we can try to have discussions with the developers and say we can paint a particular street using a particular color with a particular artistic impression. Then we go to another street with a particular artistic impression, so that we have that. Yes.
Absolutely. You bring in rhythm to the city, rhythm in form of color, movement, and so forth and so on, and maximization of space, you know, so it becomes, I think that it is that understand. Because I think it's a reasonable idea. I think that it is just that maybe they just require sensitization. Yeah? And I believe that the opportunity can be there. The creative sector can actually work with them to enhance their understanding. And I can tell you it is not just that department, very many departments. We've done lots of work with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Before we got in, they didn't have sufficient information about the sector. But for the last 2 years, we have really the sector. They are now supporting the sector in terms of data and so forth and so on. Because in the past, it was like, hii kitu ni kitu gani? There is a way in which they could be supported. Sawa. Now, Barbushe, I have so many questions for you, but I'll not ask all of them. First of all, there is this question that was left pending on what constitutes the creative city. You know, is it the county? Is it the CBD area? Is it, what is it? What is the space? But I'm also interested in your response to the question of how can we turn this space to make it intensely creative?
Thank you very much. I'll start by highlighting about why, especially why we became a creative city. And the choice of the craft and folk arts was quite deliberate. Looking at all the other categories which were there, we were not really able to have enough content that would have made us qualify during the application. The crafts and folk arts have a story about what Nakuru is, where Nakuru has come from, and how it would have made us qualify. So the story about the folk and crafts arts is a story that starts from Nakuru being the cradle of mankind. So if the story starts from there, and then the next stop in the journey, we are at 12,000 years at Kariandusi, especially at Njoki's place, where she's very well perched at the Kariandusi River. And there's evidence of life around 12,000 years. And the tools that you find at the Kariandusi Museum are tools that the Acheulean men and the prehistoric men used. There's a workshop that was left there along the banks of the Kariandusi River at the museum. So that starts the beginning of our folk art story and our craft story. And then we come to 3,000 years, where we are the evidence is found at the Hyrax Hill Museum, where most of the tools and most of the artifacts there, they range up to 3,000 years. And then there's the interesting story of the Sirikwa people, where we have the Sirikwa holes at a free area. It's a very interesting concept that, and it's so a space that just lies idle, and it's a space that can be utilized to create a lot of activities. Even we could have having performances there. You could just generate a whole economy from those Sirikwa holes. And even the story about the Sirikwa holes itself is a very interesting story for the interpretation of how the story of Nakuru came to be. But again, we move away from there, and then we come to the Nakuru of 1922 with the colonialists around 1922. There's a lot of stories around there. and they are interesting activities, especially being creatives. Most of those people were creatives because they are the ones who founded the Nakuru Players Theatre. And if you look at some of the activities that they used to do around town, their pastime activities were like, Nakuru then was a one street. It was a one street town. So their fun, most of their fun was driving across the street and knocking down all the posts that were holding onto the shops. That was part of their pastime, and which was later on being experienced sometimes in the 80s by these people called Akina Breka, Akina Gideon, when they were coming, Gideon Moy, they were coming to showcase. Breka from Kiamunyi, I think Kamunya knows Breka. Yeah, they would over the weekends, they would drive in rally cars, and the Akina Gideon would come with motorbikes, and then we would line up the Kenyatta Avenue to see the showcasing. But that was the latest that was there. But again, now we having that as a background, then we move into the spaces that the colonialists created, especially when they were developing the town. There were spaces that were left for the Africa or Kaiuko. The Wazungus had their spaces, the sports club, the golf club, the NSC, the race course, the racetrack, and all that. There is quite a lot of opportunities within those spaces that we, as the creatives who are now here, we need to start reimagining and rethinking how we could now attract new developments in those spaces.
You have shared the colonial history, which is very interesting, and a little bit of the post-colonial in terms of the spaces and so on. Now, the one thing that one notices in Nakuru is how much of the colonial heritage dominates. So much of that colonial history. And I'm just wondering, is there a way of decolonizing those spaces to make them truly Kenyan? So that the narrative, so that the stories are not just the stories of the colonial experience, but also the stories of Kenya, and that they become Kenya-centric in terms of look and feel, even as they are mixed with the colonial experience. So that through a creative encounter, the colonial history gets juxtaposed with the Kenyan history, as it were, without the colonial element or the post-colonial. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for bringing back on course. When we did the application to join UNESCO, I think that's the liberation that we are talking about. We didn't look Nakuru as just the Nakuru city, Nakuru East and West. We looked at Nakuru as the county, the whole county. That's why we made references even to people in Naivasha, people like Washo doing the Kankadelic, the farmers market in Naivasha, and then all the way to Koresoi and to the people, forget their name, the Ogieks.
You're talking about the Ogiek,
yes,
or
yes.
I almost thought you were talking about Olkoyot.
No, the Ogieks. So
or the Laibon.
Okay.
It's the Ogiek, eh?
The Ogiek.
The minority community really endangered.
Yes. So we looked at cross-cutting across the whole county, and we looked at the opportunities that are within those people. But further again, we now zeroed into what we have in the city, and especially like what I've been propagating and working on in the UNESCO Creative City. It's because I looked at working with the marginalized people, the people in the marginalized community, people who are in the ghettos, as you could say, people who would not be able to come to town. They are creatives, but whenever there's anything in town, they will not be able to come. And then we looked at the spaces that they have. For example, we have the sewage system. The sewage system has just been neglected as a place pali sewage yote inaendaga. But that is a space that when we establish the walkabouts and we do the nature trails with the communities that live along the park and the community that live around the sewer system, then we can see an opportunity opens for us to engage within that sewer system to even create rallies, tuk-tuk rallies, we could have motorbike rallies, we could have open markets for the people, the communities around there. We could walk down up to the quarries and do markets along the quarries just to sensitize the community within that space that they can start generating income within their spaces. Then when COVID came, it gave us an opportunity to rethink about the climate change and what is happening to Lake Nakuru. So the increase of water also brought up a new opportunity for us to start reimagining and creating a tourist destination around the park. And then we've come now all the way. We've come to Menengai, the crater. There's a lot happening there, and in our pursuance for that, we realized that Nakuru is the leading geothermal producer in Africa, and being the lead geothermal producer, so we started those engagements with the geothermal spaces, and we are looking at doing community tourism, and even now the direct use of geothermal. There are so many opportunities that have arisen from that, and we have extended our interest. Now we are part of the planning for the industrial park that's opening at the Menengai crater, whereby we are using geothermal. We are negotiating to do a revolution in this town to have geothermal being supplied all across town to the industries. We want to rethink about carbon emission. We now want to use geothermal in those factories, Menengai, Bidco, all those factories in Australia, and then supply geothermal all the way into the town. We are also working in a project in Eburu, where we are working with the Eburu community. We've started sunflower planting. We want to do sunflower oil. We have done 100 acres of sunflower. We have established natural saunas, where we're going to start the Eburu safaris, and we engaging the community there and the people to start doing those safaris, to go for those natural spas in Eburu. We are also starting the part of the direct use is this lay chickens, hatcheries, using hot water. We started the greenhouses for the tomatoes planting, the horticultural planting, using the greenhouses. I also started fish farming. And those are the activities that we want to really engage the communities here. When we talk about job creation, it's unfortunate that the jobs are there, but we are not seeing them. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, especially at the Menengai crater, at the industrial park. There's 200 acres of where you can engage in horticulture, and I don't see why we still have youths idling in the community, because that is tax which is just lying idle. They can be engaged in the horticultural industry and all that. And as we are getting more creative, we would suggest to the government that now they want to collect tax, to make it compulsory that anybody between 18 years to 30 years should work forcefully in the industrial parks. So at least the tax solutions will have been gotten to.
Hey, umesikia hiyo? That all these idle youth in Nakuru are harvested and taken to the industrial park to work. Watake wasi? hiyo itakuwa tight. Lakini, I mean, I think the bottom line really, let me just say this. You see, quite often when we are pushing for jobs, we push for jobs to secure livelihoods. We say people should work so that they are able to eat and live decent lives. Sindio? That's why they need to be able to work and get money and so on. But there is something else that we don't also talk about, which is about human dignity. There is something special about contributing to your own survival as a human species, instead of depending on other people for your own survival. I think there is need for us to bring back this argument that when people are jobless, they live a life that is not dignified, and they do not realize their full potential as human beings, because human beings ought to be involved in production. So when you are not involved in production, you are not living optimally as a human being. But when you work, you enrich yourself. You become a better human being. You become a better person, because you are contributing in production, in your own survival, and also the survival of the species and the people around you. So I am happy that there is all this work going on. And I'm still not sure whether you have answered the question on where the creative city begins and ends, but tutakuja hapo kama ni county ama ni city. Nitarudi kwako baadaye. Let me talk with Elvis. I mean, Elvis, you are in the creative sector. You are into music, you are into MCing. Sindio? You are into, really the creatives. Yeah, DJ, you are doing all you live creativity. So, in your imagination, how can we create energy, artistic energy in Nakuru County?
So, my take is this. When first I understood what Creative City was, then to me it was like an eye-opener. And the same way Bob was just said about, it was like a liberation moment for us. It's like we are having another opportunity to recreate our city, redesign our city, and also reshape our city. Because I've just heard you talking about the previous designs of Nakuru City were highly inspired by colonialists back then. So applying for Creative City gives us an opportunity to redesign our city informed with our culture. Because this is what I discovered in my creative space. Culture informs our creativity. Culture informs our creativity in levels of music. If I want to do music, my culture will inform me how I'll write my songs, how I will even produce my songs. I'm also in the designing space. We do designs for clothes and stuff. I also discovered that culture would inspire me so much to design the types of clothes that I wanted to design. So when we were designated as Creative City, I saw a beautiful opportunity for each and every one of us creatives to redesign our city. I think the biggest mistake that many of us have undergone is to assume that the role of running Creative City lies wholeheartedly with the government. I want to correct that. It does not wholeheartedly lies with the government. I can say it took Barbushe, working with the creatives, with the government, to apply for this designation. So it was a collab between the creatives and the government. So my vision and my take is, now, how do we redesign our city? I think the first space to go for, before we embark on redesigning, it's our mindset. I believe the people of Nakuru, when we'll start doing the sensitization of what Nakuru City is, that will be the starting point of reshaping our mindsets. Because coming up with the old mindset and you just move into the new Creative City, itakuwa ngumu. So basically what I just want to say, the best way to stimulate creatives to take charge is to take them through capacity building and let them understand what Creative City is, what are the opportunities, what are other opportunities of making making money, networking, cultural exchanges before we embark on anything. So my take is capacity building. Let them have to see the bigger picture, and once they see the bigger picture, I know creatives in Nakuru will never disappoint you. Aggression wako nayo, strength wako nao, they do so much.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So build their capacity to understand what it means in terms of creative city, what needs to be done, and what they can do individually and collectively. So we are not without talent, because if we didn't have talent, these creatives would not be shining wakitoka Nakuru and Nairobi, and yet wakifika Nairobi wana shine. Labda what we need ni create opportunities hapa zaidi, au sio?
Yeah, because coming from Nakuru, Nakuru people are super resilient. We get our inspiration because of one simple thing. I've been born, raised in Nakuru, though I've been all over. I'll simply say this. Watu wa Nakuru, two things will either happen to you when you're in this town. All of us have one common enemy, which is poverty. So in Nakuru, two things will either happen to you. You either overcome this poverty, or poverty overcomes you. That's why when you see most of those successful people in Nairobi, what wanauliza, hey, mbona these successful businessmen are from Nakuru? You remember there was an article about successful people from Nakuru. Even top producers, top DJs, they're all from here. This resilience comes because we are running away from poverty. Now we have this beautiful opportunity to tackle no poverty sustainable development goal number 1 using Creative City. Now we can network with all these other cities and see now how do we tackle this poverty issue. Most of creatives, their biggest challenge, being in the informal sector, is raising capital, is having the capacity and the skills just to tackle their issues and their businesses and all this. So you'll find a very strong resilience from Nakurians. Let me call them like that. Because coming from this town, you have two choices. Either poverty kuchape, ama you overcome it. And those who overcome it, when they overcome na aggression ingine mpaka unabaki okay. Na wenye wanalemewa, wenyewe wanalemewa.
Wajua tulisema kwamba Nakuru ni melting pot ya tamaduni mbalimbali, kwamba sio utamaduni mmoja ambao unapatikana Nakuru. Utakuta jamaa kutoka different cultures, different experiences, na kila culture inaleta usanifu wake, au sio? Inaleta creativity yake, unaona? Sasa of course ikishakutana sasa, what you have is something lots and lots of energy, ambao kwa sababu haikutoka mahala pamoja, inatoka all these cultures. So how do we harvest hizi tamaduni mbalimbali ili tuweze kushine? Kwa sababu ukienda sehemu za Nyeri, culture ni hiyo moja, unaona? Ukienda Meru, culture ni hiyo moja. Ukienda Kericho, labda culture ni hiyo moja na kwingine. Lakini Nakuru ni culture mbalimbali zimekutana, zinashikamana, zinajengana. So how do we do that?
The only way we can harvest is building an infrastructure around this culture. Most of us are coming from the informal sector, and there are no structures. So unakuta yenyewe talent iko, guys are doing what they are doing, but there are no systems to harness all these that we are doing there. So you can imagine being designated as a creative city. Now we have this opportunity to create a structure around our culture, even to allow our culture to inform now our urbanization, our designs, our music, and our storytelling. And now having this network of more than 300 cities to go game, bro, to go game. Yani mbaya kabisa.
Absolutely. Now utaona kwamba the way we did this tamaduni, we combined policy, kwamba you need a policy framework. So policy ndio inaongoza vitu, sio? Alafu tukaweka infrastructure. Sasa ukiunganisha hizo mbili, unatengeza community life, unatengeza urban culture, unaona? Alafu sasa ile manake talent iko. We are not, the talent is actually there. It just needs enhancement and so forth and so on. Haya, comments, mbili tatu.
As you were talking, I imagined that for us to have a sustainable, creative economy, it will need 3 pillars. One being the artist, because Niana creates content, then the community, who is the consumer, plus the policy. And I think most of the time we, as artists, because I sing and then I also write, as artists we complain, community hawataki content yetu, sijui nini, serikali inafanya nini na nini hivyo. But then we do not look at ourselves internally in terms of what content are we creating. Because if you're not creating the right content, then it means no one is going to consume. And then we'll start complaining. And I think it's the midday panel, wakati waliongea, for us as creatives, to ensure that our voices are heard, we need to be part of the process. Like the public participation. If we want a budgetary allocation, then it means that we have to show up kwa hizo vitu. So it's just a challenge to us as we even continue with the panel discussion that can we start thinking of solution-based instead of blame game point. Yes, the government to some point needs to up their game. Yes, the community needs to do something, but then what are we doing as artists? And also, when you look at what you're doing from a legacy point of view, then it makes a difference even in how you're approaching. Because if you're looking just for something for now, nitakuja nitoe nguo, nikue celeb for 2 days and I'm good to go. But I'm looking at a point whereby Akina Leswanyika have sung their songs uko way back, but we still listen to them. So as much as even now the creative is changing and we have to adapt to the different things, then are we producing things that are going to outlive us? Because if they're going to outlive us, then it means we are doing something for the community. Thank you.
Sasa mimi naitwa Shizo Mkenya, Bwana Prof ni Esikuri. Mwanzo acha niseme Bwana nani Kimunya alikuwa ameuliza swali nzuri sana. Na kulingana na utafiti nilifanya kidogo, niliona ya kwamba hayo match Barbushe amesema ya kwamba walipokuwa wanafanya application walitoa examples na from other areas kama Njoro. We were feeding a proposal ambayo ingeleta hiyo creative city, lakini sasa kwa wale wanajua kwamba city inakuwa within the two constituencies ambayo ni Nakuru East na West. It's all about the city, ama inakuwa within the city. That's the little knowledge nilipata. Apart from that, ningeomba kuambia kiongozi mwenzangu ambaye yuko pale kwenye serikali, sisi kama wasanii sasa tuko na city, alafu tuko na creative city. Hakuna vipengele vingi sana ambazo tungependa kuona kama serikali mnazingatia ili discussion about konao ya urban ikuje true, kwa sababu kama mimi nitalipwa kama msanii wa kawaida nilivyokuwa nalipwa before city ingie na city imekuja na kuna utofauti, basi nitakuwa mmenichapisha chini nyinyi kama serikali. Na unajua kila kitu kinaanza na serikali, nyinyi kama serikali. Alafu hiyo conversation ikitoka kule ikikuja kwetu na inaenda mpaka kwa private entities. I saw there was a madam there, is it Njoki, aliongea vitu mpaka nikasikia na furaha hapa penye nimekaa. The conversation should be from your end, even from this panel ya sasa hivi. From serikali conversation inakuja kwetu kama wasanii na sisi tunaipeleka wapi? Mashinani. Alafu nyinyi mnajua kama serikali mkiongea the private sectors watashika, na ndio maana utapata ule uhusiano na ile growth ya industry nzima inakuwa inasonga. Why an artist in Nairobi will go to a stage na analipwa 200,000 when here in Nakuru he goes to the stage na analipwa 5,000? Na tuko na serikali hapa ya county, inakuwa ni jambo la kusikitisha. And nilipochunguza hiyo industry ya Nairobi, kwa sababu mnajua mimi uchungulia kule, nilipata ya kwamba wasanii walijitolea kuingia studio kufanya kazi. Alafu serikali nao ikajiweka sawa. PPMC ikaingia, ikahakikisha kwamba imestandardize zile rates. So lazima hiyo uhusiano ama hiyo communication ama hayo mazungumzo yatoke pia kutoka kwa serikali. Kwa nini kwa serikali? And I'm happy Mr. Murioki is here. So nikiongea najua anashika zile vipengele. So ikitoka kule alafu ikuje because, and just one example, Prof, when there is an event in the county, we always have committees. These committees are always incorporated with even the private sectors. So when you call me as an artist on that table, and then you call the committee, some of the private enterprises on the table, we are discussing mpaka maneno ya budget na kila kitu. Then at the end of it, I can assure you, if that conversation will be good, hata yule private enterprise ama entrepreneur ambayo yuko kwenye meza, akitoka pale akirudi kule ataenda kuambia wale watu wa kampani, serikali imeamua ya kwamba msanii wa Nakuru lazima alipwe shilingi 50,000. Unanipata? So kutoka hapo mimi kama Shizo nikitoka niende kwenye club fulani kuitisha kazi, they already are aware about the conversation ya the amount nafaa kulipwa. Na mimi kama Shizo niko na challenge gani kama msanii? Nitaingia studio nihakikisha kwamba nimeweka game yangu imekuwa nini? Juu, so that it fits zile level. So mimi hapo ndio nitaweka kodi sana, yani nyinyi kama serikali. Mwanzo pale conversation ibadilike. Najua serikali ambazo zimekuwekwa kule nyuma hazikuwa zinatusikiza. Lakini hii hapa naona ni kama inatusikiza, kwa sababu kama mimi Shizo nimetoka hapa nikakaa na waziri ya Babu na Mwamba na tukapanga mikakati na vitu naona zikifanyika. Ina maana kwamba hiyo conversation ikishushwa kwenye county, then at the end of the day we are going to kill it. I was talking to you, Prof, in the morning when I was telling you one of the biggest challenges is that almost all the counties, all the 47 counties, majority of the people in the offices how understand about the 1980 recommendation status of an artist. Kwa sababu iko very clear, hata ukitoa simu yako Google saizi, the 1980 status recommendation of an artist, na Barbushe ndiye alinifanya nikasoma hiyo. Nashukuru sana Barbushe, hiyo article imenisaidia, nimetembea Kenya nzima nayo. Utarealize ya kwamba hiyo article inakupatia nguvu kama msanii kujua haki yako na kujua ile treaty ambayo serikali yako ambayo ni yetu iliweza kufanya na nchi za kimataifa. Unaona? So that conversation tukipick from there, then utapata I can assure you, mimi nikikuja naweza hata sasa niseme nataka niite directorate ya culture na department mzima niwapeleke mahali kama America ama hapa Legacy na ninunue lunch kwenye kwa sababu ninachapa kwa mfu. Lakini sasa hivi bwana niko mwani. Asanteni.
Why are you guys how did you reach to the decision of using art to do this road safety campaign? So my question is, you are our champions there, the city board and the city management, and now you coming on board. We have been with you several meetings. Now we are almost adapting you as one of us. So are you guys very intentional of also trying to do a sensitization within departments? Creative City, I know it cannot work with city management alone. It depends on other departments also. That may be including finance and the rest. So are you guys very intentional, like we are carrying this and will be good ambassadors of when we are sitting maybe in those interdepartmental meetings, we are like, we have this baby, the Creative City baby, and we need efforts from all of you guys. Or whenever you go to these meetings, do you even mention or do you talk about it? Or am I in a share too where we are having meetings between you and you guys and maybe the private sector? Thank you.
I go by the name Jakababa, the stress doctor, but the government of Kenya know me as Oscar Muganda. Come from a great family. Na mimi ndio mtu ya kwanza kwa community yetu kukula pizza. Okay. Mine is I like the way Barbushe has said, yeah. First, it was an idea from the creatives about the Creative City. Sindivyo Barbushe? Sometimes I usually tell people with the issue of policy infrastructure, ukingoja serikali ikukujie, utangoja sana. Sawa sawa. So, hii yote tunasema in terms of policy infrastructure, vile tunataka the Creative City ikae. It's an issue ambayo as creatives tukiachia serikali ama the county government tutangoja sana na tutazidi kukuja hizi forums tukirudia the same thing. Yeah? Issue ni hivi, as creatives, Barbushe, ni kwanza kuinitiate this thing. Come up with a document, this is how tungependa hii policy ikae, terms of infrastructure, wasanii wakae hivi, then tukuje nayo kwa table with the government tuanze kuangalia. From there itakuwa easier hata kuilobby policy wise from the county assembly hata from the national assembly tupate legal backing ya MCAs na watu wengine na ita work out. Asanteni sana.
Haya, swali yangu ni mbili. Kwanza Elvis na Babu umekuwa mstari wa mbele wa kuchampion wasanii wa kuje pamoja. Board, nimekuwa na shida nikitaka kufanya drawings, paintings kwa ukuta za Nakuru City. Nimeapply, nimetuma letter, but since last year mpaka saa hii sijaipewa permission ya kuchora hizo ukuta. Ukuta yenye nilichora ilikuwa moja tu, ilikuwa ukuta mbili, hiyo njia ya Lake Nakuru. Mahali Barbushe alikuwa amechora zake, kando yake ndio mimi niliweka murals zangu. 2. Nimetuma pia barua nikitaka kupewa Lions Garden, ninafanya performance ambayo inajiita check a lunch. Ile time yenye watu wenye wana pesa wanakaa kwa hiyo garden, sisi tunawachekesha tu, wanatoka kama mishiba. Sijaipewa hiyo leta bado pia mpaka saa hii. So nikitoka hapa, hope takuwa na majibu poa. Santeni.
So thank you, Prof, and all of us for the feedback, inquiries, and the remarks. So let me start with Gabriel. I don't know why we were not able to get you when we were doing the street paintings, but we had an activity on street paintings and mural arts where we had called for some artists and we engaged them on some of the street paintings. But going forward, we'll put you in our database so that in case we will need any other mural arts or if we get an opportunity, we'll be able to get to you. Now, on the issue of permission to draw the mural arts, I will wish maybe after this we can meet so that you can let me know. You can also share with me the letters and then I'll follow up from there. And also to know the particular walls that you wanted to paint, because we are also on with another project of beautifying the city, Kenyatta Avenue, and some of the walls as you enter the city, in collaboration with the creative sector working group. So I think we'll have a conversation after this. And then also on the lunch time, the Lions Garden. So Lions Garden, also to inform you that it's a proposed project that it is planned for renovation. So maybe you can also share your ideas, because there are already drawings to make it some sort of a small amusement park within the city, in the city. And it will be very important also you share some of the ideas that we can incorporate, and also how we can incorporate your arts and performances during lunch break. So that's with regards to Lions Garden. And then on the let me get to the Kababa. I think he talked of the policy and how we can start initiating from the creative industry. I think it's a good idea that the creative sector working groups, the players in the industry can start doing memorandums and proposals and bringing to us for consideration as we start, because there is already a roadmap and discussions towards having a creative policy for the city or for the county. And it will really be very good if you from the creative sector, you start giving us the proposals and memorandums as you initiate the policy. So thank you. I think that's it for that. And then on the issue of some more, the performance of the artist and the security issues. We have the security agents, we have the Kenya Police, and also at the county level we have the enforcement department, and then now the urban development department. I think from from where I sit, we can follow up on that, and maybe we can now start sensitizing, even having a forum with all the security entities and stakeholders, and then we can sensitize them, and also have a program so that if you are going to perform somewhere, maybe the police, you notify the police, or they are notified, or we can inform them that so and so will be performing on this day, this event, and maybe through a letter. We usually use letters or some sort of permit. So I think that will be very important. Also raising awareness on the creative industry, especially with our security departments. And then the issue of EDA, the issue of the event that we recently had on road safety campaign. Earlier on we had the discussions on merging or incorporating creative arts in urban planning. So when we had an opportunity to also host the UN Habitat and have the celebration on the global event, the UN Road Safety Week, we thought it wise that we incorporate the creative element. And that's where now we called on the creative group to give us some of the mural artists, and appreciate the fact that they were quick and they made recommendations on what we can do, and that was very successful with the creative industry. So that was very deliberate on using arts and also creating awareness. And even the youth, the young artists who did the work to showcase their talent on mural arts, because we did them on the common street, which was very positive, and it had a lot of impact. I remember at some point a person came and said, I want this to be done in my building, and that was positive. At least now the young artists are now getting connected and getting jobs to do. So, and then on the issue of also sensitization with other departments and stakeholders, now at least now we have started now having more conversations and incorporating the creative sector in many of our planned activities and events. Remember, even on Monday we had the World Environment Day, and it was dominated, the performances were dominated by the arts performance from the Players Theatre. I think there were around 4 performances from persons, artists from the Players Theatre, which was very positive. Even the beadworks and the arts. I remember at some point there were 2 recycled sofas from tires, which is artistic, that's creative. And they were bought by the chief guest, the CS Environment, Honorable Soipan Tuya, and Excellency the Governor bought the other one, which is very positive. At least now, even in that big event, the creative ideas are being appreciated. So sensitization and even building capacity within the decision makers and I mean the technical experts within the county level is also key, especially now when we start bringing the creative groups giving us ideas. Like for me, I'm from the background of land and physical planning, surveying, and now creative incorporation of creative is really important, capacity building and also sharing ideas. And I appreciate the creative industry for the past 2 years. I've been able to appreciate arts and creative, and every day when we have a discussion on planning, we make sure that we incorporate the creative. So there was also another issue on this is Shizo on the issue of payments. This is a very hot it's a big topic. I mean, it's because many times when we plan, when we budget, sometimes we have a limited budget, and when we in these events, when we are supposed to engage now the creative arts, sometimes we are a bit limited in terms of the amount that we are supposed to pay them. And I appreciate that they have been key. I think they have always been in the committees that we are planning, and we usually face that challenge. And I call on the artists and the creative groups to push, even when we're having, from the onset, when we are planning the preliminary part of planning and budgeting, we push for a lion's share to the creative docket, so that when we come to, because budgeting is a long-term activity. So when we budget now, we are budgeting for next year, and we are budgeting for activities for next year. So the coming year, and we have, I know they know the process. At the moment, they know the processes, how the county operates, how we do the budgeting, how we do the contracting, how we spend money. At least for the time we have been with them, they are aware on how we operate. So I think going forward, I call upon them to continue pushing, especially at the preliminary stages when we are planning, so that we have enough budget and coming from them, so that pushes now the economic planning and the key decision makers to increase the budget for that, so that when we come now to these events, we have enough money to at least. So I think on the issue of holistic approach, at least we are having all the stakeholders on board, and also having organizing similar forums to where we call all the stakeholders to give opinions, ideas. So now we are going to go forward with the creative industry. I think I've exhausted all the questions. Maybe can clarify.
Yeah, I think you have. One of the things I truly believe in now is that we have to keep building the capacity of policymakers on the creative sector. And last year, my organization released a special journal on land governance, arts, culture, and heritage. We are trying to get surveyors and planners, land administrators, and so on, to start appreciating arts and culture. And I'll share with you that special issue. We released it last year. We also actually organized a major conference, a continent-wide conference on that intersection, because we believe that when urban planners understand arts, culture, and heritage, they can plan for us better, so that our cities are unique. They are not a replica of the colonial cities. I really want to close this. I think you guys have really given literally everything, unless you feel like you must say something. Something kidogo, yeah, kidogo.
One of the challenges that I've come to find in Nakuru is that the creatives depend on the government for support, whereas it should be the other way. It's the government should depend on the creatives rather than us. You know, when you go to the government officers and start telling them about what you're planning as a creative, they are not creatives. They are officers. Their role is to enable. They are enablers for you to be able to achieve your creativity. So this is the first time that I'm seeing that we really go getting into government, even trying to juggle around the budget and all that. We as the creatives, we should show the government where the money is, because the government doesn't have that money to run the creatives. I believe it doesn't really have that money to run the creative industry. It is us. The money is out there with many other organizations that would be able to support what we are doing. So when I come to Rob and ask Rob to look for paints for me to come and paint, then I'm giving him a lot more work. I need to come to him with an idea that I'm going to paint this and show him where we are going to get, you know. So I think we need to change that here in Nakuru. And I just wanted to mention that just recently we've had a conversation at with the SDGs, the high level political forum, where we talked about I talked about the geothermal and the turnaround, and also that also attracted the Vision 2030 board. We had a meeting congregated at the Menengai Park to see how this is going to turn around all that. But having said that, I would also like to bring to the attention that joining the creative city, it literally means that we are the network is for cities that have embraced creativity, culture and creativity into urban development. And this conversation is ongoing, and we have been able to attract several cities. In fact, like yesterday, we had a conversation with the treasurer of the Kansas City Board, and they are very interested in coming to do the networking with Nakuru. In fact, we've already scheduled a meeting with the ambassador, the American ambassador, to come and see what exchange programs, what collaborations that are going to be there between the Nakuru Players Theatre and the many other states that are willing to support Nakuru as a creative city. So there's just a big turnaround that we expect the creatives to come out and guide the government officials about what really creativity, where they want to take the creativity. Sometimes I am defeated to get into the conversation when I feel like I'm going to Morioki's office to go and ask Morioki to avail some funds for us to do a project. Whereas I feel like I should go to Morioki with that idea, and then we could look at the many other opportunities that are there to make the run. And as we are going into the issue of policy that has been very in the mouths of the creatives for quite a long time. I'd just like to advise, just a little advice about, once we do the policy, I'd really like to see that we in the policy, we have a document that says where the funds to run the art fund is coming from. And with the planning people, if we can be able to lobby and say that in any license that is being given by the county, probably 1 shilling or 2 shillings would go to the art fund, so that at least we have a fund. Now we create a fund rather than going back again to government kuambia ile budget ya chai na ndoma irudi kwa upande yetu. So we need to get a little bit into that direction.
Yeah, I think that is a good idea. We are coming to the end of the session. Another idea is
maybe also, sorry to cut you, Prof. Maybe also to add on what Barbushe, we also have opportunities for partnership, where we can, an artist was telling me of an idea where we can write proposal to private sector or through PPP, where they can provide, let's say, the paint, and then now the artist can paint. So through such partnerships and initiatives, like what we did, it was through a partnership with UN Habitat. We just wrote to them, did a proposal, did a presentation to them, and they accepted and they funded the project. So through such partnerships, we can be able to implement some of these ideas and get the creative sector going.
Absolutely, because for government, unless the money is budgeted for, it will not come out. So it's through the partnerships, really. And when you are also preparing the budget, there's something else. You could also say every government department buys a piece of art from a creative in Nakuru every year. That becomes almost like a policy. Is a policy piece of art from a Nakuru-based artist in every government office available. One piece of art could be, what, 10,000 shillings? It doesn't matter. 5,000 shillings? It doesn't matter. But a piece of art from a Nakuru creative in every government office. How namna gani jamani? Yeah. That way is a good visual art. Then every government officer to show evidence they attended a theater performance or a film show by a Nakuru creative as a part of their performance contracting. Au namna gani? Yani you develop audiences namna hiyo. Naingiza kwenye performance contract.
Issue ya policy ni building an infrastructure. For example, acha nitumie, nimeona Hash yuko hapa, Hash BK. Right now najua uko among the top 5 artists in Nakuru. He's doing very well. But you can imagine having a support system around what he's doing. Because that's what Tanzanians did. Tanzanians waliangalia tu wasanii wao, producers wao, and then wakakuja wakapiga tu an economic backup. So trying to look at taxpayers money tuichore kwa policy, some money zetu tunasema sema paziwe redirected kwa performing artists wenye wako juu, and then now the government now backs them up, markets their work, make sure wako na heavy visibility nje. So when we talk about policy, it's just putting infrastructures na to guide public money towards creativity. So sile tunasema hivyo si ati sometimes ina sound distant sana ukisema policy. Msanii sasa wengine wapenda kujoka tunatuitia policy because it sounds very distant, haiko karibu na beats mixing and all that. But trying to imagine the amount of money that is collected within Nakuru County, if amount fulani itakuwa tu kando now through art fund. Alafu kwa art fund pia another challenge hata sisi tulikuwa nao kitambo tukienda kwa bank we were never credit worth. You can imagine msanii sasa ameenda kwa bank kuomba do anataka ku record muziki, which bank will finance you? But through policies wametengeneza youth fund, wametengeneza sports fund. Now tunatry tusukume tuwe na art fund. Ndio sasa whoever wants to buy a machine anaweza approach our art fund, apply, apatiwe pesa na kutakuwa na agreement vile unaweza rudisha hiyo pesa, but iwe specifically to for equipping and developing creatives. So nikitaka kukurudishia prof history ya policy from your end, a book kabla tutoke hapa tupasulie because it's your area of expertise.
Tutaimaliza hiyo. Tushaimaliza ile ya national, kile kwamba tutaweza tukasaidiana tuimalize moja kwa moja, au sio? So I don't see any big problem. I think there are only 2 issues: kuimaliza, kuifanyia public participation, kuifanyia marekebisho hapa na pale, executive iko tayari, alafu the usual thing that the legislation that goes with the policy. Kwa sababu policy itself sio sheria. Sheria unahitaji sheria ambayo inakuwa back na policy. Unaona? So that you are able to do that. So you do the policy, you do the regulation ambayo inapitishwa na county assembly, alafu una do the legal framework ya kuimplement hiyo policy. Na sio vitu vyote ambavyo kwa policy lazima viingie kwa sheria. Vingine ni kwa sababu ya habit. Unaona? Kama tunasema sisi kama Nakuru tunataka iwe namna hii. You don't legislate everything in the policy. So we will support, we will work together. I think that we have committed to working with Nakuru. As we get to the end of today, just to say that this is the first meeting we are having. We will have another Nakuru meeting. It could be physical, it could be virtual. I'm hoping it can be a physical meeting like today. Ili tuangalie tumepiga hatua gani. At that point we should be able to report some things. Sindio? Yeah, we should be able to report some things and also just to be able to craft a direction that we were hoping that maybe even the governor would be part of the next meeting that we call, so that she also appreciates some of the work that is being done. So we'll continue working together to ensure that some of these things happen. So, at this moment, I want to, I think that with regard the way forward, hiyo tayari mshatuandikia kwenye zile notes zenu, tuliziona, tukazichukua, nafikiri tutaenda kuzisift vizuri, tutazitengeza vizuri as a document, as recommendations, because ziko pale zote, they are all there, and it's actually from you guys. Zingine ziko repeated, kwa hivyo zile ambazo ziko repeated zitaondolewa, halafu zingine zinashikana zitaunganishwa vizuri. Then we have a good list of recommendations coming from today's meeting. Au namna gani jamani? Haya, sasa nataka tuingie kwenye last activity. Irene will give you a sheet of paper that you will fill in exactly 1 minute to kusema how you felt today, and if there is a topic that you'd like us to cover next time when we organize another Tamaduni event. As I told you, we've done Mombasa. We focused a lot on blue economy, and we focused a lot also on the creative sector in Mombasa and their interests and benefits, na nini, na tourism, na kila. Some of the issues you are raising actually came out of Mombasa also. We will also be looking at Nairobi. We will be looking at spaces for the creative sector in Nairobi. And of course, we'll also be doing some other stuff in Nakuru.